Welcome to Convince Me. Sorry about the ghosts in the machine. We are officially back for the Week 14 show. This is the top of the Power Hour, the only pregame show with all the stuff you care about, none of the fluff you don't. I am Chad Millman. Over the next 30 minutes, my Action Network buddies, Sean Koerner, Simon Hunter, Chris Raybon are going to convince me what props, what sides, what totals I should play for today's NFL slates. Also, we have Evan Abrams with market reports and trends that make you sound smarter than your friends. Plus, we have Dr. Nick Giffen, who's going to take us through the latest need to know from our luck rankings at the bottom half of the hour. Dr. Nick is going to join Gilles, Gallant, and Brian Matthews for the touchdown show, giving you the best touchdown props on the board today. Reminder, like this video, subscribe to the Action Network YouTube page. Also, all the picks, all the data, all the research available in the award-winning Action Network app. Download it today. Before we get to the picks, let's take a look at the leaderboard through 13 weeks. Raybon taking a commanding, I'd say that's like a 4.5, 5-game lead. 5-game lead for Chris Raybon. It was tough to do the math right away. All right, Koerner, kick us off with your first prop.
All right, I'm going to go with a fun one here. I'm going to go with Isaac Guerendo of the 49ers to go over 70.5 rushing yards. He's the new 49ers lead back now that both Christian McCaffrey and Jordan Mason were just placed on IR. He was the Niners' 4th-round pick this year, and I think he just has massive upside in the lead role. He was only one of 5 backs since 2003 to earn a perfect athleticism score of 99 at the combine. 2 of the backs on that list are Chris Johnson and Saquon Barkley, so he's in great company there. He's also just a great fit for the Kyle Shanahan scheme. He was considered one of the better outside runners from this year's class, and he's done that so far as a pro. He actually runs outside the tackles at the 3rd highest rate in the league, and that sets up nicely against this Bears defense that has really struggled against outside runs, against all runs really, but outside runs, they've allowed the 4th highest explosive run rate. So again, I just love his upside here. I'm actually projecting him closer to 80.5.
All right. I like that. Looking for a way in on that Bears game. It's a weird line. I should say Bears Niners. I don't want to show my homerism here, but it's a weird line. It's been coming down. Everyone's been betting the Bears. At some point, there's going to be value on the Niners. It's down to -3 that game. Simon, what is your prop?
Amazing acting job by you, Chad. We all know Chad's already sitting on a 6.5 ticket with that Bears number. He is just loving that line movement. Yeah, Chad, I'm going with a Will Levis under 30.5 pass attempts. And this is really about game script for this matchup. I really love the under here, and I was thinking of a way to get in outside the under. And to me, this matches up with kind of the game plan for this Tennessee team, right? They've really morphed into a team that relies heavy on the defense, that if they're going to win, it's all about the running game, right? They don't want Will Levis throwing the ball 30 times in a game. That has not worked out for them in any game this season. All 4 of their blowout losses this season have come when Will Levis has thrown over 30 times. So we've seen now that when they're playing against teams that, are just a little bit below them in talent level, that they just rely heavily on the run game and their defense. And that's what we have here, right? Me and you escaped the Mac Jones life last week, getting a cover. And it's another game where the Jaguars are turning to Mac Jones, and I think them as well are going to run the ball heavy. So to me, the clock's going to be moving quick. I don't think he's going to have enough attempts to throw it 30 times. So this number just feels inflated to me. Like, it's just a number that we've seen them bump up because they think maybe they will be passing here. But we've seen Will Levis. He's kind of guy that he gets the yards, right? He throws the ball downfield. He doesn't have that many pass attempts. So I love that it's sitting at 30.5. That's such a key number with these player props. So give me the under here on Will Levis pass attempts.
Yeah, look, Will Levis, he's been a guy that we've all been afraid to bet on the Titans because of Will Levis's pick sixes and the high variance in the games that he plays. But he has been playing better, and he has been taking a little bit better care of the ball. Good opportunity to get in on the Titans if you don't like that spread or total. Chris Raybon, what do you got?
Let's go with Marquez Valdez-Scantling over 33.5 receiving yards against the New York Giants. MVS is now the Saints' clear number one wide receiver. He's finally getting those number one wide receiver snaps around 85, 90% of the workload. And that should continue here. And this Giant defense, I mean, first of all, I say this every week, they're tanking. Like they ruled out a bunch of guys on Friday. Lawrence is out. So there's going to be not much pressure. I think the Saints line is getting healthier, but they play the most single high safety in the league. And that is a coverage MVS has just destroyed. He's already got nearly 4 yards per route against single high. Derek Carr also top 5 in a bunch of metrics against that coverage as well. So MVS is taking on that Rashid Shaheed role. He's been 36 or more each of his last 3 games. I like anything under 40 for this number. I have the average, the mean at about 50, but MVS is so volatile that you have to knock it down about 10 to get the median. But I still love this number, and I'm way over it. So give me MVS over 33.5 receiving.
MVS, all he does is catch touchdowns. 4 games with the Saints, 4 touchdowns. Every single time it goes to red zone and it's a Saints play, it's MVS scoring some kind of touchdown. I like them all. I will say that right now. I'm going to bet all of them. You will see it in the Action Network app. I'm going with MVS because I'm just deciding to unload on this Saints and Giants game. It's the most intriguing game on the board, clearly. Give me MVS. All right, let's look at the sides, fellas. Koerner, you're up first. What do you got?
All right, well, I'm going to go with a bit of an ugly one here. I'm going to go with Rams plus 3.5. And I realize, the Bills aren't a team many people are willing to fade right now. I'm not really one of them, but they're the most bet team this week with around 80% of the action on them. I think this could be, a potential letdown spot for them after clinching their division last week, and now they're traveling across the country here. This is a must-win game for the Rams, who I think are sneaky the rest of the season. Last week was the first time all year they've had their entire starting offensive line on the field. They were obviously without, both Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua for a handful of games this year. So this offense is finally at full strength. And I like how they match up against the Bills' run defense. Kyron Williams runs inside the tackles at one of the highest rates in the league, and that's where the Bills' defense has been really vulnerable. They've actually allowed a league-high 15% of inside runs to go for 10 or more yards. So I love how the Rams' offense matches up here, and their defense is also playing really well, too. They've been generating pressure at a top 5 rate. Linebacker Omar Speets has been playing at a high level ever since he had to replace Troy Reeder. Josh Allen's been playing at an MVP level, but he's probably still due for some, interception regression here because he's still, averaging around a 3% turnover worthy play rate. So he's been kind of fortunate to only have 5 interceptions on the season. So I'm going to fade the public here and go with the Rams plus 3.5.
Yeah, that's becoming a popular wise guy pick. Another one of those lines that has come down from 4 to 3.5 is a letdown spot. The Bills, huge game next week, coming off of beating the Niners, beating the Chiefs, going across the country. It's a game where you would normally expect the Bills outside of these sandwich spots to dominate. They tend to win and win big when they're favorites against inferior teams. So it's a tricky one, Koerner. Definitely a tricky one. Simon, give me something that would give me a little more confidence.
How about some chalk, Chad? Give me the Vikings -6. And we've seen this number now go up 6.5 a lot of books. So if you like this spot, I'd grab it now. I just see it closing at 6.5, 7 by the time this game kicks off. And it's because a lot of people are kind of getting info you've had all week, right? It's all about Kirk Cousins and his struggle against the blitz. And what team loves the blitz more than this Vikings team? And we've seen it now. He's just not the player he was in the past. His pocket movement, him putting weight on the back of his foot, pushing off of it, putting the ball downfield, it's just not there right now. And then you add in the trends, Chad. That's the big thing that stood out to me is just these spots have not been good to Kirk Cousins in his career. So over the last 5 seasons, Kirk Cousins, 16-30 against the spread, playing indoor games. And that's 7-16 against the spread over the last 3 seasons. So this guy struggled in indoor games. That's where he's played almost his whole career in Minnesota and Atlanta. So this is why his numbers are shocking in when he's just not been covering for people. And this exact spot since 2022 as an underdog, he's 3-9 against the spread. So it's just bad when Kirk's a dog, especially one this big. So we've kind of seen that your favorite division, Chad, the NFC North, they've just been dominating teams outside their division these last couple of years. And this matchup is really great for them, especially a team that I think people are starting to get a little, not dismiss their defense, but they're not giving the same respect and praise they were earlier in the season. I think this is a nice bounce back spot for this Minnesota defense. And then offensively, I just don't think Minnesota really, has to worry about the pass rush of the Falcons. Like, this is going to be a nice game for Sam Darnold. We all know Justin Jefferson hasn't scored a touchdown in 4 or 5 straight weeks, and he's obviously in a prime spot here to score one. So I love this matchup of the Vikings. Give me to -6.
Yeah, this is one that snuck up on us earlier in the week on the favorites when we were talking about it. All of a sudden we realized, wait a second, this is an opportunity. We liked it. It was at 5.5 when we talked about it on the show. As you said, it's up to 6, getting closer to 6.5. But Kirk Cousins, if you take away 800 yards and 8 touchdowns against the Buccaneers, the guy's having a really pedestrian to subpar year and kind of can't move. And that game against the Chargers last weekend was his for the taking, and he couldn't take it. Raybon, what's in your bag?
Let's go with the Cleveland Browns +6.5 at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jameis Winston, I think the best thing about him is that he throws all these pick sixes, because it just creates a massive value on the number, and it's still a relatively low probability event. So Jameis Winston, this is the spot you want him. When he's a dog of more than a field goal, 21-11 ATS, 66%. And that's with him throwing a pick 6 in 15% of those games. So even with a pick 6, he's still covering at 66%. In the games that he doesn't throw a pick 6 and he's a dog by a field goal, more than a field goal, 70% against the spread. And you see the reason why. No 20-point games for the Browns first with Watson. No 300 yards of total offense games. Jameis comes in, they're getting 400 plus. They drop over 500 with 32 points on the Broncos, who are a better rated defense, most metrics than the Steelers even. So Jameis gives you the type of upside that you need to hang around with this great Steeler defense. And then on the other side, I just think, Russell Wilson starting to get a little bit too much love in the market. I mean, he had that ball against the Jets in his first start. After that, Pittsburgh is +2.5 on average margin of victory. Last 4 games, they've had wins of 1, 2, and 6, and they lost to Cleveland in the 4th game. So divisional home favorites with at least 4 against the spread wins in their last 6 games, which the Steelers are 5-1 with Russ. Those teams are just 60-93 against the spread, 39% over the last 2 decades. And Chad, I know you love our luck rankings. This is a luck game. Cleveland's the 28th ranked team in our luck rankings, aka 5th unluckiest. Pittsburgh, the 2nd luckiest team in the league. For instance, we saw that game a couple weeks ago when they played Baltimore. They don't even score a touchdown, but they win thanks to, on 6 field goals, because Baltimore misses 2 and they miss a 2-point conversion. So things like that just tend to even out over time. So give me the Cleveland Browns +6.5.
Yeah, I love this bet. What's interesting to me is that this game is actually headed towards 7. Everyone should turn on their alerts in the Action app to see if this game gets to 7 before the kickoff, because it seems like the money is coming in on the Steelers, so the line could go up a little bit. I'm going with Minnesota because all week I've been eyeing this game and felt like people are still overvaluing the Atlanta Falcons. You can see in the app, by the way, I've already bet Minnesota and I've already bet the Cleveland Browns. So this isn't anything against Raybon. I just like the Vikings. They've been the team that I like the most all week. I mean, Koerner can take something personally because I'm not even considering the Rams in this spot.
Yeah.
So I'm going with the Vikings I guess we're going with -6 right now. All right. We love to fade the public. Let's take a look at where the majority of betting tickets are according to the Action app. For those who are new, the number of tickets generally represents who the public likes. The money percentages also available in the app indicates who professionals like. The Bills and the Rams, we talked about it. The public is on the Bills. We haven't gotten into the Jets and the Dolphins, but the majority of the money has been coming in on the Dolphins. It's the first time since week 6 that the Jets are not favored in a game and not getting Sunday money. They had a lot of injuries on defense, a lot of players ruled out over the weekend. And then finally, we're talking about Monday night, majority of the tickets coming in on the Cincinnati Bengals. All right, let's bring in Evan Abrams, Director of Research. It's going to make us all smarter, hopefully feel better about the bets we are making today. Evan, hit it.
That is the goal, and we will start there after this because today it's December. So we assume in December there is a weather report, but today's weather report is a little bit different because it's all about wind. There's really, some games are cold, but there's no real rain, nothing crazy out there. But Giants, New Orleans, about 15-mile-an-hour winds could be gusts up to 30 miles an hour, tapering off in the second half. The other games that are getting wind today, Carolina and Philly, strong to start, tapering off as well, about 12 to 13 miles an hour. And then finally, Cleveland and Pittsburgh, winds sustained about 15 miles an hour to start, gust up to 25, winds going down in the second half. But that Cleveland-Pittsburgh game could see it, throughout the game mostly. And then we'll stay with that Pittsburgh and Cleveland game. So everyone always talks about the Tomlin voodoo. Koerner loves it as well. That's when he's an underdog. So he's 5-0 straight up this year as a dog, 65% against the spread in his career, and he is above 500 ATS as an underdog in 8 straight seasons. But today, he's a favorite. As a favorite of above 4 points, the Steelers under Tomlin, 10-25 against the spread since 2017. Worst mark in the NFL. And of course, the Browns have lost 20 straight regular season games in Pittsburgh. 2003, Tim Couch would be the last one to come up with a victory. So maybe that changes today for all of our Browns +7 tickets. And then the Giants. The Giants are currently on a 7-game ATS losing streak facing the Saints today. That 7-game ATS losing streak is the longest for the Giants in the Super Bowl era. The franchise is good. They usually aren't this bad, and they have never seen this type of streak before. And I'll leave you with one more before I toss back. That Jets-Dolphins game just got to 6.5 this morning. It was 5.5 and 6 leading up to that. If it closes at 6.5 or higher, this would be the largest underdog for Aaron Rodgers in a divisional game in his entire career. So definitely a different Jets team in 2024, Chad.
All I can say is the Giants are so bad and screwing so many things up this year that for a team that is trying as hard as they are to tank, this is when they accidentally win.
We thought that against the Bucs.
Yep. That's how it's going to go today. Hey,
Yeah.
do you want access to all of our experts' picks as soon as they happen? What about our pro prop projections powered by Sean Koerner and Chris Raybon? You get all that plus real-time bet and money percentages with Action Pro. Use code POWER20. Get $20 off the annual rate. POWER20 for $20 off. Let's hit those totals. Sean Koerner, you're up first.
All right, I'm going to go with the Titans Jaguars under 40. I actually forgot to mention the Rams had the third biggest luck gap of the week. I'm not going to forget to shout out the luck ranks here. This is a luck total under, this Titans Jags game, with a minus 7.3 rating. But, both of these teams have trailed at a high rate this season. But with it expected to be a closer game than usual for both teams, I found that in these spots, teams tend to be a little bit more run heavy, conservative, because they feel like they have a shot. These are two poor teams. So that has also been a trend to the under as well. It's also why I like Simon's prop, aka the prop god, of Will Levis under pass attempts, because this is a spot where the Titans should absolutely, lean on the run game, maybe prevent Levis from making some, boneheaded mistakes, some more memes this week. So I like, Simon's angle there. The Jaguars also blitz at the lowest rate in the league, and that's actually when Levis has struggled a ton this year. He ranks 21st in EPA per dropback against the blitz, but when teams send 4 or fewer rushers, he's dead last. So it might be a tougher spot for him anyways. Plus, this Titans defense has been fairly solid. They rank top 10 in DVOA this season. I think they should be able to contain a Mac Jones-led offense this week. And I expect, the Jaguars, same thing. They'll lean on Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby here, get the ground game going. They should be able to, because it should be a closer game. So this is a luck under, and I think there's, ton of angles that I think set up well for the under here.
Late breaking news, George Pickens of the Steelers inactive today. Just alerted in the chat. So keep an eye on that. Even more reason to want to take the Browns, especially if that game continues to go to 7. Simon, what's your total?
Going with the Jets, Miami over 45. This is another number that's moving, Chad. Put it in the doc last night. It was at 44.5. Now we've seen a lot of books already up to 45.5. And that's just because of what Evan talked about, this weather, this wind that's going across America right now. It's not as bad as people perceive down in the south. It was supposed to be 20 per hour gust down in Miami today. Chad, it's 75 degrees sunny with 10 per hour winds off and on. That's perfect weather, especially for a matchup like this where Miami is just a different team at home. And you talk all the time, Miami at home with Tua is a different team. They just score so much more. Now they have a Jets team coming in that has just struggled against these type of teams. A team that can run the ball and push the ball downfield, exactly what Miami wants to do. So I have this at 49. So this is a huge line movement for me, that this is still at 45. And it's really a game that it just feels like this is where the Miami wins 35 and the Jets get 14, right? They just roll and blow them out, put up a ton of points. And we've seen with Rodgers, right? He can start out hot and then he just fades as the game goes along. He's just that type of player now where he's inconsistent as the game moves along. So Tua, he's been underrated this season. Like since he's been back, he's been playing like a top 5 quarterback. And I wanted to find a way to back this team after looking so bad last week in Green Bay. And we joke all the time. It's pretty simple. When Tua's on the road and somewhere that's cold against a team above 500, you fade him. When he's at home against a team below 500, that's when you back him. So I'm expecting a big game for Tua, this Miami offense. Give me the over here at 45.
Yeah, Tua against teams with a winning percentage of 250 or less, which is what the Jets have, 7-1 in his career. And that, by the way, that's 7-1 in the division. So all those wins coming against teams in the division. I like the Dolphins in this spot a lot. It's unfortunate that we happen to be back in the Dolphins the week that the public is finally piling on, and maybe the professionals too. That is a huge gap in your number from 45 to 49. It's interesting. The Dolphins not as explosive this year. A lot more short yardage plays, getting it to Tyreek Hill, getting it to Waddle, trying to get them in positions to have yards after the catch. Raybon, what's your total?
I'm going with the Vikings, Falcons under 46.5. We already know about Minnesota. They're number 1 in defensive DVOA. They blitz. Cousins is old and he's scrambled twice all year. So he's not really equipped to handle this blitz. He's also 29th in touchdown rate versus the blitz. No passing touchdowns for Cousins since week 9. So I think this Falcons offense is going to have to protect him somehow. It's probably going to be with a whole lot of Bijan Robinson, some Tyler Algier, some bubble screens, things like that. I don't think you're going to be able to let routes develop down the field. And then this Falcon defense can actually do some of those same things. They're obviously not as efficient as Minnesota, but they allow the second lowest average depth of target for opposing passers. They allow the third lowest yards to the first down marker on pass plays. And both of these defenses actually are top 7 in forced check down rate. So Atlanta, I think, they like to just drop back, keep everything in front of them. They do have some good safeties on the back end. So I think, Darnold, he can't be forcing it here. Minnesota is the better team. They know they have the edge. So he's had some ugly games, but I think he will kind of, take what the defense gives him enough. And I just don't really have confidence in the Falcons being able to score enough on the other side to get this over. Minnesota unders are 8-4 this year. Falcon unders are 8-4 this year. And unders in Minnesota are 4-1. So give me Falcons, Vikings under 46.5.
Yeah, 2 teams where the line sometimes gets inflated because you think that their offense, especially for the Vikings, started off so strong that there's still a little bit of residual value. I'm going with the Jags and the Titans. How can you not take an under with Will Levis and Mac Jones and the expectation that both coaches are so afraid of how their quarterback's going to screw this game up that they'll just try to run the ball as much as possible and know this is one of the few chances left in the year that they have to win a game. Plus, you guys know I'm a sucker for the luck rankings. It's my favorite stat in the Action Network universe. It's taken all the noise out of the randomness to give us a more accurate picture of a team's performance. For those who want to know more, check them out in the Action app. and actionnetwork.com. We've already talked about a couple of those games today. The luck rankings love the Browns. They love the low scoring potential between the Jags and the Titans. There's a under luck rankings game on Monday Night Football. Let's bring in Dr. Nick. Take us through his favorite spots for the day. Dr. Nick, let's hear it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go with everybody here, short and sweet on this one. We're going to take Cleveland plus 6.5. I just want to emphasize the luck stat here. Again, a luck gap over 30% after week 12. The unlucky team is 26-4-1 against the spread. That was 1-0 last week on that 30% plus. So yeah, just crazy. We flipped the coin and got heads another time, Chad. So we're going to go with that. Also, when it's Tomlin in this spot, that 30% plus after week 12 as the lucky team, Pittsburgh's 0-4 against the spread and 0-4 straight up, and they've been favored in all four of those. Opponents covering by an average of 16.3 points.
Well, yeah, this could be a very nice spot to sprinkle a little bit on the Browns money line as well. All right, what's your number two?
All right, number two, we're going to go to the Chargers-Chiefs game, and we're going to take the Los Angeles Chargers under on their team total of 19.5. The expected scores that power our luck rankings show that the Chargers have actually been the second luckiest scoring offense by percentage of points over expected. This Chargers offense has an in-possession success rate of just 39.5%. That actually is good for fifth worst in the NFL. They probably will have a lot of third and longs this week. That's because the Kansas City defense, their defensive success rate is better than the recent opponents that the Chargers have been facing by about 4.5%. And in those third and longs that they could be facing, Justin Herbert, a negative quarterback coverage matchup. He's struggled comparatively this year. He's still been very good, but comparatively struggled a little bit more with man coverage and cover four, both types of coverage that the Chiefs play at a much higher rate.
Also, obviously, this week, again, no J.K. Dobbins, Ladd McConkey, still questionable about whether or not he's going to play in the game. So this Chargers offense finding a lot of challenges in terms of getting people on the field who have been so productive for them this season. What's your last one?
All right, I'm going to go to that Rams-Bills game that Sean mentioned is kind of a luck game by scoring luck. And I'm going to take Tutu Atwell for the Rams to have under 1.5 receptions. This is actually the number one game by scoring luck, right? Well, the luck rankings use record luck, but with scoring luck, this is the number one game by that metric, with the Rams being the unlucky team. So if they cover the 3.5, they're more likely to be a little more run heavy, so fewer pass attempts and fewer receptions to go around. Tutu Atwell also, since Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp have returned and been fully healthy, has 9 catches on 13 targets in 6 games. So just 13 targets in 6 games. And he's caught 9 of those. That's 12% above expected because he's been targeted way downfield. I mean, 17-yard average depth of target. He really, instead of a 69% catch rate, should have like a 57% catch rate. So there's maybe some market inflation due to a high catch percentage recently over the last 6 weeks, and also just a bad matchup for him. His target share goes down versus 2 high safety looks, which the Bills play the 4th most. And Buffalo also allows the 3rd fewest receptions to players lined up out wide, and Atwell is lined up out wide on 85% of his snaps in the last 3 weeks.
All right, Dr. Nick, thank you very much. Let's talk Sunday Night Football. We did a little bit of that with the Chargers team total. They're playing against the Chiefs. The Chiefs are 4-point favorites. The total is 43. The Chiefs struggling, trying to get through the middle of the year, having finally lost a game to the Bills. Patrick Mahomes frustrated. That offensive line can't stop anybody on defense. They barely beat the Raiders. And Black Friday, Sean Koerner, give us your first bet for Sunday Night Football.
All right, I'm going to go with DeAndre Hopkins to score a touchdown at plus 260. Going to try to stay hot with these Sunday Night Football touchdown props that our tool is showing value on. Hit the plus 650. Ray Davis won last week, plus 450 on Will Disley the week before. Too bad these don't count for Convince Me leaderboard. That's a shame. But Hopkins is one of the top values in this game, according to my projections. And he's only been with the Chiefs since week 8. So his chemistry with Patrick Mahomes and just within, Andy Reid's offense is only going to get better as we close out the season here. And ever since he joined the Chiefs in Week 8, he has 6 end zone targets, which is the third most in the league. Those are actually the most predictive type of targets when it comes to touchdowns. So it's clear he's seeing the type of targets we need for this prop. I like him in the spot, projecting him closer to plus 210. So I like the value we're getting here with him to score a touchdown at plus 260.
Yeah, these touchdown props, again, check out all the tools, folks, because these touchdown props from the projections have been cranking. It's been awesome. Ray Davis scoring last week was a very pleasant outcome. Simon, what is your pick?
Oh, Chad, how blessed are we to be watching football on Sunday night? Some people out there, they're just college football fans, Chad. And yesterday was a big Timothy Chalamet day. Everyone met this famous actor. I don't even know how to say his last name. It was a huge deal. And you know that their girlfriends or their wives heard him talking about it. They said, well, tomorrow night we should watch one of his movies. And they have a movie they love. It's called Call Me By Your Name. So we're going to be watching KFC Chargers. A lot of guys out there are going to be watching Call Me By Your Name, Chad. And what you're going to be doing if you're watching Chargers tonight against this Chiefs team, you got to take the Chiefs -4. This is the spot, Chad. It's been a long time coming. I mean, you have faded them, what? It feels like 7 straight weeks we've been fading this Chiefs team just because the number has been propped up too high. It's finally come back down to earth, in my opinion. I feel like it's finally where it should be. This is a Chargers team that is just so banged up. They have so many injuries, not just on the offensive side, but defensive side. Guys who are just big-time playmakers for them offensively. And when I look at this Chiefs team, it's an Andy Reid off extended rest. Like, that to me is the difference here. It's anytime I have Andy Reid off extended rest, you know his team's going to be prepared. Same with Spags on this defense. So I know that the Chiefs are, they're making moves here. They're trying to put in new players in the offensive line, and they're adjusting on the fly here. But I don't think the number reflects how much better of a team they are than this Chargers team is right now. So give me the Chiefs -4 on this number.
Yeah, it feels like one of the rare times where you're getting some value or at least fair number on the Chiefs as favorites. Don't be scared by the fact Patrick Mahomes is historically under 500 against the spread when he's favored by more than 3. This is an interesting spot for the Chiefs. Chris Raybon, what are you going to tell me?
I'm going to tell you to bet the Gus Edwards over 10.5 rush attempts prop. So I really like this spot for Gus from a volume perspective. You guys have been hitting on it. Lad McConkey's a game time decision. He is just so important because defenses have just been playing a ton of man against the Chiefs, and all their other receivers and their tight ends, everybody, no one's really good against man coverage. So last week, heard Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator, talking about how, Gus Edwards been efficient and they only got him 6 carries. They only got backfield 11 carries overall. And they, even with all those Cousins interceptions, they could have lost that game. I mean, they really needed every single one of those 4 interceptions because their offense did nothing. So I think this is actually going to be a game where they try to get Gus going. It actually helps that the Chiefs don't allow a ton of explosive runs because when you're looking to bet an over on a carry prop, you want carries. Like, you don't want him to get one long run or something like that. And I also noticed that Jarrett Patterson, practice squad running back, was elevated to the active roster for this game. Now, that most likely outcome means he takes the spot of Kimani Vidal because he's just a better pass protector. Gus is good and Haskins as well. So if Vidal's getting less snaps, that's just more snaps for that's more carries for Gus Edwards because Vidal is the guy who's been kind of taking he's been that RB2, taking some 4 or 5 carries a game away. But if Patterson is there, he's more likely to not get as many carries, and Gus is just going to play on even more early downs than he's been playing already. But I have this number at 12.5. I think people are forgetting that this is still a Greg Roman Harbaugh offense. Offense going up against a really good offense on the other side. They're going to want to try to shorten the game here, especially because they don't really have these man-beating receivers. So they're going to have to hand it off a ton. So give me Gus over 10.5.
Yeah, this number feels a little bit low. Like, Gus Edwards, if I recall correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, his rushing carry numbers weren't that much lower when J.K. Dobbins was getting the majority of the carries because the expectation is these Greg Roman offenses will want to run so much. They need to spread out those carries. I'm going with the Chiefs -4. I feel like this is just finally a great spot to get the most overhyped, most public team in the NFL. But I do like all three of these picks. If you want to bet DeAndre Hopkins anytime touchdown, the Chiefs -4, Gus Edwards over his rushing total. It's a 10.5 rushing carry total. It's a 10.5 right now. That payout is plus 1,300 at DraftKings. That is our same game parlay for Sunday Night Football. This has been Convince Me. Thank you for watching. Good luck today. Stick around for the touchdown show.
Thank you, Chad, and the Power Hour, and welcome to the Touchdown Show
Browns
for
down to
Week
6.
14. I am Gilles Gallant with the Action Network, along with Brian Matthews, a.k.a. the BMAT. Each week, we cover the anytime touchdown market in the NFL. We're going to have some best bets for the 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. Eastern games. We'll have some touchdown parlays. We're also going to look at Chargers Chiefs for Sunday Night Football. We'll put together a touchdown same-game parlay for that game. And then later in the show, we're going to have a special guest, Ian McMillan with Sports Illustrated. He's going to join us. He's got a pair of anytime touchdown bets he loves for the 1 p.m. slate. So here's how the show is going to work. We start off with our best touchdown bets with the lowest odds, then we work our way up, finish off with some spicy touchdown bets. That's usually where we try to do 2 touchdown bets, anything over 10-1, and that's coming near the end of the show. But Big Matt, let's start off with our best bets. And we were just talking about whether or not this is going to be a close game between the Panthers and Eagles with such a large spread. But I think we both think that this Panthers team is going to be a little bit more competitive this week and just has been competitive over the last month. So I think that the Eagles passing game is going to have to work today. So I'm going to take Devontae Smith to score an anytime touchdown at plus 200. Now, so Devontae's got 4 touchdowns in 9 games this year, which is the same as A.J. Brown, by the way, and has seen a big uptick in scoring when Dallas Goedert misses games. So that's their starting tight end. He's going to be out for today. And since the start of last season, Devontae has scored in 4 of the last 6 games when Goedert missed time. 2 of the last 3 games this season. Had 14 catches, BMAT, and 2 touchdowns in 2 games. One of those games was a dud, but again, nobody really on the passing side for the Eagles did anything against that Giants team. Hurts only threw it 14 times, so we could almost toss that game to the side. But this Panthers pass defense just been awful this year. 28th in passing touchdowns allowed, 29th in defensive DVOA versus the pass. And I think if this is a closer game, Eagles are going to have to throw a little bit more, and I think Devontae Smith is the guy that should be able to get in the end zone for the Eagles. BMAT, before we talk about what your anytime touchdown bet is, what do you think of this Panthers-Eagles matchup, and do you think that the Eagles are going to have to maybe throw a little bit more to beat them?
Well, there are a few things. I think Carolina's been playing some inspired ball, and I think Bryce Young is finally looking like I don't want to jinx it, right? And but look, he's been playing good football. They've been competitive in every game. They very well could have beaten both the Chiefs and the Bucks, and so I wouldn't be surprised if they come out and at least keep it somewhat competitive. And if that is the case, then the number that we're getting for Devontae Smith here is a great value. So I love this pick. I'm with you on Devontae. Already played it, so yeah, let's ride.
Well, especially with the price difference too. Like, look, I love A.J. Brown, but he's around like plus 110, plus 115.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I don't really think again, it's the T. Higgins, Jamar Chase situation. There's not that much of a difference between the 1 and 2, right? Like there is a difference, but not that much. Okay, so that is my first best bet of week 14. I am going with Devontae Smith. B-Matt, you're looking at this Vikings-Falcons game. Who do you like to score an anytime touchdown in week 14?
Look, walk into your trap, take over your trap. Kirk Cousins revenge game. I am going with Drake London anytime touchdown at plus 165. I get it. Kirk Cousins hasn't looked great, but this is a pretty good matchup in the sense that for Drake London, he operates out of the slot, and the Vikings are a blitz-heavy team. Apply more pressure than any team in the NFL. We all know that Kirk Cousins isn't, he's not that mobile, right? So I'm not expecting him to break outside the pocket and scramble much today. So I think you got to get the ball out quick, and when you do that, you got to get it to your guy in the slot. And Drake London has a 25% target share against zone defense. It's basically the target distribution for Kirk Cousins goes down to Drake London and Darnell Mooney. So I like Drake London. He hasn't scored in a few weeks, but he did have 16 targets last week. So I always say volume is king. I like taking a guy off, maybe not having a touchdown the week before. So multitude of factors here working for me to take Drake London at plus 165.
Not very mobile. That's probably the nicest
I mean,
thing
I'm
that's been
trying-
said
I'm
about
trying-
Kirk
yeah,
Cousins.
you know.
In the last week, if you just think about coming off that game with the 4 interceptions against the Chargers, it was a very polite way, and I appreciated it because it was like we could have easily just ran that guy over the coals. But the one thing that we do like about Drake London as well is big red zone target at 6'5".
Yep.
He's third in the NFL in red zone targets. So Drake London, very solid spot here to score against the Minnesota Vikings, who also will not be having Stephon Gilmore, their top cornerback as well this week. So, all right, so BMAT's best bet, Drake London at plus 165. I am on Devontae Smith at plus 200. Now, before we talk about Sunday Night Football, if you want access to all of Action Pro projections, make sure to sign up for our annual subscription that is currently on sale. Access includes exclusive player prop picks from Sean Koerner and other members of the Action Analytics team. You'll also get access to exclusive expert articles, our best spread, money line, and total bets, and real ticket and money percentages. To sign up, visit actionnetwork.com/pro today and use code POWER20 at sign up. One more time, that's POWER20 at sign up for $20 off. All right, B-Matt, let's look at Sunday Night Football. Chargers, Chiefs. They played in week 4, finished around 17-10. Very low-scoring game in a divisional spot. But we are seeing a total in this game now at 43, maybe 43.5. And right at the top, you've got Isaiah Pacheco at even odds to score a touchdown on this Chargers defense, followed by Travis Kelce. And you're starting to see the Gus bust. Gus Edwards at plus 162. Ladd McConkey, who is a game-time decision, is around plus 170 to plus 200, depending on the sports book. Then you've got Kareem Hunt all the way up to plus 200 now. And DeAndre Hopkins, Quentin Johnston, Xavier Worthy, Josh Palmer, and Will Dissly at plus 350 to round out this top 10 for Sunday Night Football. B-Matt, I got to go right back to the top of this list. I don't know if Isaiah Pacheco should be plus odds in this game. Like, I know that the Chargers' run defense has been pretty solid, but when we watched last week in that game against the Raiders, Isaiah Pacheco looked awesome. Like, 7 carries for 44 yards. Kareem Hunt clearly is going to be taking a backseat to Pacheco now, especially considering the odds where we're seeing him around plus 200. Yeah. I think if we're going to be doing a same-game parlay for this game, especially when we're getting him at plus odds, I think we have to start with Isaiah Pacheco. Do you agree?
Yeah, I love Pacheco. Hey, look, any guy who runs as angry as he does and looks as explosive as he does, and I almost think the injury kind of worked for him because, he got a little time off. He's refreshed for the home stretch of the season.
So if we're going to take Pacheco, I don't really want to pair him with another Chief in this game. I don't really love the odds for Travis Kelce, and I like DeAndre Hopkins, but I want him probably closer to like plus 260. Yeah, what do you got?
I mean, can we go to our boy Ladd? I mean, let's just break down.
We can't do Quentin Johnston anymore, right?
No, I can't. I'm done. I'm done. Absolutely done. All right, look, no more Quentin Johnston. I'm not that big of a glutton for pain. But look, man coverage at an extremely high rate. We're talking about Ladd McConkey here. It's really, like you said, there's just not a whole lot of targets there outside of, Will Dissly and Ladd that maybe you can trust.
Well, Will Dissly, I feel like, I'm seeing him somewhere as high as plus 400. I would almost just bet him as a single bet if you're going to take Will Dissly in this game. But like Ladd, again, you talked about how much he has thrived against man coverage. He was against the Falcons, pretty much the passing offense for Justin Herbert and the Chargers. I'm pretty sure he had like 15 targets. The rest of the team combined for 5 or less. Like, you know what I mean? So Ladd McConkey right now, I'm seeing him around plus 240 at FanDuel. So Isaiah Pacheco and Ladd McConkey, plus 115 and plus 240 at FanDuel. You pair those together, you're getting over 5-1 right now. I'm seeing plus 550. So why don't we take those two and we pair them together? We'll put a half unit on it and be a little bit more safe, and then we can cut out the riffraff on the rest of these teams. What do you think of that, B-Matt?
I love that. And
all right, so Pacheco and Ladd, that is going to be the same game parlay for Sunday Night Football. Now let's kick it up a notch, B-Matt. We're going to take it to our second best bet of the day, and you are looking at this Raiders-Bucks game. Who do you like for another anytime touchdown bet this week?
Yeah, so I'm going to the Raiders Bucks. I like Jacoby Myers anytime touchdown at plus 240. I believe you still get the number around plus 210. But look, this guy's got 11 or more targets and 90 plus receiving yards in 3 of his last 4 games. And now he gets a great matchup against the Bucks. And I just think you practically, when you look at the Bucks, they've basically given out yards to the wide receiver position. So even though if you look back last week, Jacoby Myers didn't have a red zone target. I go back the week before and he's got 4 red zone targets, no touchdowns. So look, again, I talk about volume is king, right? And there just aren't a whole lot of receivers that are getting the type of volume right now that Jacoby Myers is getting. So I'm going to go Jacoby Myers anytime touchdown. I think Aiden O'Connell is an upgrade to this offense, and I think he scores his first touchdown in a few weeks today.
Well, I think another thing too is last week, for example, they're playing against the Chiefs. We just talked about this, a lot more man defense. This week we're playing the Bucks, a lot more cover 2, a lot more zone. So that's more where Myers tends to thrive against, even though he did look fantastic against the Chiefs last week with some of those catches. The thing that I really like about Jacoby Myers, though, is that you talked about the targets and the volume, because a lot of people will point to Brock Bowers and say, like, look at the volume, look at the targets. Since Jacoby has come back over those last 4 games, he's only averaging less than half a target less than what Brock Bowers is. But because Bowers caught that touchdown last week, everybody's just like, it's his offense now. Forget about Jacoby Myers. And I think they're wrong. I think Jacoby is still very much a focal point in this offense. And like you said, with Aiden O'Connell, much more efficient than what we've seen from Gardner Minshew or, God forbid, Desmond Ridder. So, all right. So Jacoby Myers is going to be BMAT's second best bet of week 14. B-Man, I'm going to the 4 p.m. slate. I'm going to that Niners Bears game. And I feel like we're getting a bit of a buy low spot here on a wide receiver with the Niners because of how poorly San Francisco looked in Buffalo last week. I'm going to take Juwan Jennings to score an anytime touchdown on this Bears defense. We've talked about how much we used to like Brandon Ayuk in this offense and how effective he was. Well, I think Juwan Jennings, just based on volume alone and role, he is the new wide receiver 1 for this Niners offense, and he's completely taken over the Ayuk role in 5 games this year without Ayuk. Jennings has 46 targets and 4 receiving touchdowns. One of those games was a 3 receiving touchdown game where he just blew up without Brandon Ayuk. But then you start looking at how does Juwan Jennings in this passing offense, how does he look against both man and zone defenses? And the good news is that he actually leads the team in target share against both types of defenses. So Brock Purdy tends to look for him a lot. I like for him to bounce back this week against the Bears, which just a defense that has just been slowly kind of depreciating, I feel like, as the season has gone on. So BMAT, what do you think of the Niners in a bounce back spot here against the Bears? Do you think their passing offense will be able to get back on track against this Bears secondary?
Yeah, I think, look, I like the matchup. I think when you look at the defense, they run a good amount of single high. And against single high, Jennings he's pacing. I mean, he's leading the way. So I think that he's going to be the focal point of this passing offense today. I think Jennings has a big game, and I'm with you, man. Love Juwan Jennings.
And I wouldn't be mad if you wanted to take George Kittle too. I mean, anything over plus 200, I think Kittle is a solid spot, especially because the Bears, I mean, they just allowed Sam Laporta to score 2 touchdowns on them there last week, or I believe Thanksgiving rather. So again,
yards, 2 touchdowns, receiving yards, something like
that. Yeah. So again, just I'm very high on the Niners passing offense this week. So I think Juwan Jennings is the way that we want to go at plus 230. But again, if you're looking at Kittle, wouldn't be mad at that either. So all right, now we're going to bring in our special guest for the touchdown show for week 14. Let's bring in Ian McMillan. Touchdown! And welcome to the Extra Point. And we've got a very special guest today for the touchdown show. Former colleague of mine. He is with Sports Illustrated. Ian McMillan joins the touchdown show for week 14. Ian, how are we feeling about touchdown bets this week? And how have you been? I haven't had a chance to talk with you in a while.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you, Gilles. Yeah, it's been too long. I've dabbled in the touchdown bets. Usually this season, I've only had 1 each week. This week, 2 stuck out to me right away. So I have 2 touchdown bets this week. So yeah, dipping my toe in the waters of not only prop bets, because I've never really been a prop better up until this season. I kind of stuck to sides and totals. So I've been dipping my toe in the waters of prop bets and touchdown scores. Some mixed results so far this season, but we'll see how these touchdown scores go for me today.
Well, the one thing he also does, which is a very admirable feat, almost like a marathon of betting, he does the road to 272, where he puts a bet in for every single NFL game. So I love watching that unfold as the season goes. But let's stick with the props. What is your favorite anytime touchdown bet for week 14?
Yeah, so my favorite touchdown bet is going to go Juwan Johnson of the Saints, which I hear has been a tough mountain for you guys to conquer this season. So I'm going to have my go at him here. I do think with Taysom Hill being out for the Saints, I think They need to go a different way. In the red zone, obviously, Taysom Hill played a huge role in the Saints offense when they got down to the red zone. And I think last week, we already saw Juwan Johnson's numbers kind of increase with Taysom Hill out halfway through that game. 7 total targets last week, hauled in 5 of them, 36 yards. And I mean, the Saints only have so many offensive weapons at this point of the season. So Marquez Valdes-Scantling, I think, is going to be their deep option. Alvin Kamara to the backfield. And then I think it's going to be Juwan Johnson in those short yardage situations now that Taysom Hill is out. So yeah, you can get him up to plus 380 at FanDuel, almost 4-1 odds. I think it's a pretty good dark horse bet for him to get in the end zone. I think third touchdown this season. I think he's due to find the end zone.
Yeah, he's just slowly starting to get a little bit more involved in the offense, and then obviously by default, because pretty much all the Saints pass catchers are dropping like flies. There's pretty much no wide receiver outside of MVS, and I don't even know if Bub Means or Mason Tipton is playing today, but either way, Juwan Johnson, nice big target in the end zone for Derek Carr. So you have another touchdown bet that you like as well, but it's actually for a Cleveland Brown, which I just wanted to let you know you're a Falcons fan. BMAT is a huge Cleveland Browns fan. Who are you betting to score a touchdown in that game?
Yeah, this one I might like even better, to be honest. Jerome Ford at 4-1 at DraftKings to find the end zone today. Obviously, I'm guessing everyone watched the Browns against Broncos game this past week on Monday night. And if you did watch it, you saw that Nick Chubb was kind of on the sideline, and there was question marks about, was he hurt? What was going on? And Kevin Stefanski simply said, no, he thought Jerome Ford was a better fit in that situation, which to me is a big red flag for Nick Chubb. And it makes sense when you look at his numbers this season. Nick Chubb, since he come back, only averaging 3 yards a carry, not 3.7, not 3.5, 3.0 yards per carry, which is simply unacceptable in the NFL. Jerome Ford averaging 4.8 yards per carry. So he's getting 1.8 more yards per rush than Nick Chubb. Ford played 66% of snaps on Monday night. Nick Chubb only played 34%. So if we see that continue this into this week, Jerome Ford might be the primary back. And if you're telling me we can get 4-1 odds on the primary running back of an NFL football team to score a touchdown, I'm going to take that bet every single time. We're still seeing Nick Chubb's odds in the market, especially to score the touchdown. They're evaluating him like he's the primary back, but 66% of carries last week. The comments by Kevin Stefanski, it wasn't an injury keeping Chubb on the sideline. To me, I think we might see against the Steelers today, Ford being the number 1 guy.
The other thing I was going to mention about Ford now, Chubb did score the touchdown last week against the Broncos, but Jerome Ford is more of the pass catching back for sure. And I think that's the one thing, especially let's say the Browns get into another trailing game script, you'll probably see more of Jerome Ford in that spot. B-Matt, as a Browns fan, what's your take on his assessment of the Browns backfield?
No, it's pretty accurate. I think the first comment I made when I heard it was he must be a glutton for punishment, just picking a Browns player in general. So kudos to you. Fortune favors the bold. So I like it, though. It's especially at 4-1. I think if the Browns get down, Jerome Ford profiles as the better third down back. And, it's hard to really sell the threat of, the play action and short pass game with Nick Chubb, even though he did have a receiving touchdown. Jerome Ford is the far more effective receiving back. So
all right, so Juwan Johnson and Jerome Ford. This is the pairing that Ian has for anytime touchdowns, but I can't let him go. I have to ask him this question. So, Ian, big game today, Falcons, Vikings.
Yeah.
I would argue you probably were one of the key reasons why Kirk Cousins signed in Atlanta this offseason. And I think you would probably attribute that too. So the next question I have to ask is, now you're watching Kirk Cousins, who's coming off a 4-interception game, going back to his old stomping grounds in Minnesota. Where are your feelings at coming into this game?
Yeah, I think I tweeted this week. I think it's time for me to apologize to Falcons fans for potentially playing a role in recruiting Kirk Cousins to Atlanta. It's not good. And I think today's going to be a disaster of a game. I can't think of a worse matchup for Kirk Cousins. I can't think of a worse matchup for the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, Kirk has been terrible under pressure this season, and the Vikings defense, obviously one of the top teams in creating pressure this season. Also on the other side of the ball, I mean, the Vikings receiving core against the Falcons secondary. I haven't seen anything about Mike Hughes this morning. We need Mike Hughes to play. If he misses a third straight game, this is going to be a disaster. So yeah, I was high on Kirk. It's now or never, Kirk, because if you stink this game, I'm off, and I'm going to throw you under the bus. I'm going to be starting the chance for Michael Penix to get thrown in there. So it's now or never, Kirk. But yeah, if you want my final score prediction in this game, I think it's like Vikings 38, Falcons 13. I think this is going to be a blowout, and it's going to kill me to watch. So
Well,
Yeah, there's a chance at halftime I just start watching Penix college football highlights.
Well, I was just going to say I have good news. Both B-Man and I are very high on Drake London today. We still think that he could actually have a very good game. No
So
Stephon Gilmore for the
38-17.
Vikings.
Yeah.
Let's get 2 touchdowns for Drake London, and then we'll feel pretty
Yeah,
good. So
I'll be all right.
all right. So Ian McMillan with Sports Illustrated. Ian, before you go, please tell us how we can find more of your content and what you've got going on for the NFL this upcoming week.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find all my written work over at si.com/betting and check out the Bacon Bets podcast where you mentioned it, Gilles. I bet on all 272 NFL regular season games. So it has been a long journey this season. I think it's my 5th year doing it now. So so check that out as well, the Bacon Bets podcast.
All right, Ian, thanks a lot, man, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks a lot, Gilles. Take care. Good luck.
All right, that was Ian McMillan with Extra Point, but now it is time, B-Matt, for our spicy touchdown bets where we try to do 2 touchdown bets, first touchdown, last touchdown, anything that has really high odds. We're trying to get something maybe even 10-1 or higher, or even plus 850. So, B-Matt, you have got 2 spicy touchdown bets this week, 2 bets of those. Please tell us, what are your 2 touchdown bets this week?
Yeah, so I said earlier I wasn't a glutton for punishment, and now I'm going to bet on 2 players that are probably on 2 of the worst offenses in the NFL. But here we go. I'm going to go Calvin Ridley, 2+ touchdowns at 17-1, and Tyrone Tracy Jr., 2+ touchdowns at plus 850. Those will be my picks this week. I just think got Ridley in a revenge game. It's not, I mean, yeah, he's played for 2 different teams. He didn't play, but look, it's just the matchup. The Jags are dead last against opposing receivers. Nick Westbrook-Akine has been going off, and it just feels like we are due for a Ridley game in an amazing matchup. He also is just seeing a ton of deep targets. Jags happen to be awful against the deep ball. So then Tyrone Tracy, I look at it, Saints run defense has been terrible. If the Giants are committed to the future, and I know that it looks like they're in tank mode, look, you play your young guys. And yeah, I know he had some fumbling issues, but last week he got back to the lion's share of the work and the red zone work. So I just think in a matchup where you've got an awful defense and now Drew Lock, who's actually throwing the ball to the running back, and Tracy is was a wide receiver in college before converting to running back. So he's got some skills to, no matter which way the game goes.
Well, and the one thing about Tyrone Tracy too is I don't know where we stand with Malik Neighbors, or at least how much of an effort he's going to have today. And if that's the case, I don't really know if I really am going to trust into the Drew Lock and Giants passing offense. So they're likely going to have to lean into the run game a lot more. So Tyrone Tracy, this is your spot. This is your shot. Here you go. But let's talk about Calvin Ridley for a second, because I find this to be really interesting because he has two touchdown bet games this year in week 2 against the Jets and then against the Chargers. But the one thing I find interesting with this game is you got Mac Jones on the other side. A lot of people are kind of fading both of these offenses. Part of the reason why we're getting like 17-1, 18-1 in a revenge spot is because that total is so low. And because
it's not even 40. Yeah. Like I said.
Yeah. And then you've got Nick Westbrook-Akine, who's got 8 touchdowns over his last 9 games. And books don't know what to do with his odds because he's only got 20 catches on the year and 8 of them are for touchdowns, which is insane. But again, Calvin Ridley, you talked about it. The Jags dead last against opposing wide receivers, but also he is their target share leader against man defenses, and that's what the Jags run a lot. So I think Calvin Ridley is in a nice spot here to get back at his former team, who for whatever reason just didn't want to pay him. Then they paid Gabe Davis instead. So all right, so Calvin Ridley 2 touchdowns and Tyrone Tracy 2 touchdowns are BMAT's spicy bets for week 14. I got a pair of wide receivers, B-Matt, and we talked about this guy already at the top of the show. I love him for an anytime touchdown bet, but I think that Drake London is a great bet for 2 touchdowns, and I'm going to pair him with the 4 p.m. slate. I'm looking at Marvin Harrison Jr. for 2 touchdowns. I grabbed each of these guys at 16-1. They're around 14-1 right now. I still like them anything over 12-1 or higher. But let's start with Marvin Harrison. So he's got a 2 touchdown game already in the second game of his career. 5 of his 7 touchdowns have been scored in home games. And now we're facing this Seahawks team. We watched them play this game a couple weeks ago, finished 16-9. But the main thing that I took away from that game, B-Matt, was that the Seahawks run defense has been really strong over the last month. They haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher, no rushing touchdowns. So if that's the case, then maybe we're going to probably have to fade a little bit of what James Conner and Kyler Murray can do from a running standpoint. And if that's the case, then they're going to have to throw a lot more. And Marvin Harrison, even though they haven't seemed to be on a strong connection yet with Kyler, still is getting those red zone targets. And even he had 12 targets last week, for example, against that Vikings defense. So, and we even saw Devontae Adams like last week. He almost had 2 touchdowns on this Seahawks team. He caught a touchdown, caught another one, but there was called back for penalty. I just don't think there's many wide receiver ones with this kind of upside to have 2 touchdowns at 16-1, even for a rookie like Marvin Harrison. But now you talked about Drake London off the top of the show. I'm going to expand a little bit more because technically he's never had a 2 touchdown game in his career. But here's why I like Drake London from an upside perspective. So 6 touchdowns this year, all scored in the red zone. And he leads the Falcons in touchdowns, targets, catches, yards. He's 3rd in the NFL in red zone targets. But let's talk about this Vikings defense. Bottom 3 in catches, yards, and touchdowns to wide receivers this year. They've allowed 18 passing touchdowns, 15 of those to wide receivers. And the key thing, B-Matt, only 2 of those passing touchdowns were outside of the red zone. So that means that if they're allowing passing touchdowns, it's to those short yard gainers like Drake London. Also, we talked about it, no Stephon Gilmore today, so there's their best corner from a coverage standpoint. I think Kirk Cousins now in a kind of a revenge game spot, but also in a bit of a redemption spot after last week against those 4 interceptions.
Yes.
I think Drake London is going to be his key target in this game. So Drake London and Marvin Harrison each for 2 touchdowns. I grabbed them at 16-1. B-Matt, before we already know how you feel about London, so you don't have to talk, but what do you think about Marv? And that Seahawks game and the NFC West divisional game?
Yeah, I like it. And like you said too, look, he's getting the red zone looks too, and it's only a matter of time. He's their 1st round pick. They've got a lot invested in him. I'm not sure how many games in a row Trey McBride can go having 12 catches, and 2 in a row now. I think he has another big day. But yeah, I think Marvin Harrison is due for a big game.
All right, so those are my 2 spicy touchdown bets. Marvin Harrison for 2 touchdowns at 16-1. Drake London at 16-1. B-Matt is on Tyrone Tracy at +850 and Calvin Ridley at 17-1. B-Matt, let's get out of here. But before we do, I want to do a 180 challenge parlay here. This is what we usually do every week for $10. We can try to get it as close to 18-1 as possible. We've hit 2 of 3 legs now in each of the last 2 weeks, but we just are getting a little bit of bad luck here. But I think what we'll do is we'll start off with Ian McMillan's best bet, who wants Juwan Johnson. So that's around +350, +380. But B-Matt, I think we need to pair him now. So the one thing I would just say, because we have to get this at 18-1 or higher, Ian's already kind of done the heavy lifting for us. He's already done the one where it has the larger odds. So we can kind of get a little cute here, maybe add some guys that maybe we're on the cutting room floor. Who do you want to add to this so that way we can boost up this parlay to 18-1 or better?
All right, so there was a guy I was considering for the mild pick, and I think this might just be the perfect spot to inject him. Let's go Braylon Allen, anytime touchdown, +125.
Okay.
Look, Breece Hall's out. Dolphins have been awful against the run. And if you want to talk about fresh legs, you've got the youngest player in the NFL who we know is just, he's a freak athletically, big explosive running back. Hasn't been, incredibly efficient on limited opportunities, but today he's the workhorse guy. I think he gets most or all of the early down work. So, I think in a matchup against the Dolphins, this is a great spot to go.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is the Dolphins defense, I don't think is stopping the run very well at all lately. And Braylon, this is a good spot for him with Breece Hall out this week. So at +125, that is going to be the second leg of the 180 challenge parlay for this week. B-Man, I'm going to take an old familiar here. He's got a little bit of a hamstring issue, but I think he's still going to play today, and that's George Pickens. I'm going to add him as the third leg going against this Browns defense. I mean, the last time they played against each other, it was in the Snow Bowl, so it's really hard to take away too much from that game, but he still had some long catches in that game, was still heavily involved. Russell Wilson is going to throw that moon ball a couple of times, especially against a team that still plays very aggressive man coverage, which George Pickens is just a beast against. So when you pair these three together, BMAT, Juwan Johnson, Braylon Allen, and George Pickens, get that parlay up to 21-1 at FanDuel right now. So those are the three. And of course, if George Pickens, for example, let's say he gets a hamstring injury or before the game and doesn't play, then they'll just void, and then we'll just do Juwan Johnson and Braylon Allen together. So, all right, so that is the parlay at 21-1 at FanDuel. Juwan Johnson, Braylon Allen, and George Pickens. BMAT, that's all for today. 4 picks from me, 4 picks from you. We've got some touchdown parlays on deck. Ian McMillan is here. He's got 2 touchdown bets. I want to remind everybody the touchdown show is going to be back here for week 15 on Sunday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, live right after Convince Me during the Action Network Power Hour. And if you missed the show and you want to get our picks, download the Action app. All of our touchdown bets are tracked there. You can get them as soon as we bet them with pick notifications. So I want to thank you again for joining us for the touchdown show for week 14. Bonne chance.